Hello and welcome to the Health Wizard podcast with your host, Elena Wilkins, who happens to be me. I'm so excited that you are choosing to listen to this podcast because you're choosing to put your health as your priority. This podcast is dedicated to teaching the most natural, amazing means that you can use to get your health back on track and reclaim the person that you used to be before getting sick. Now, very quickly, before we dive into the good stuff, I just wanted to remind you that this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. My podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you have a medical condition, please seek the help of a licensed medical professional. We're not medical doctors and we do not treat, diagnose, prescribe, or make any claims outside of what we know or what we do. So by choosing to listen to our podcast, you take responsibility for your own actions. And if you hear the testimonials of people who were able to get well, you'll realize that their outcomes depended on their effort and their specific condition. With that said, let's jump into today's topic. Please enjoy. Are you struggling with a hormone or a thyroid imbalance? Whether it's PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, whether it is estrogen dominance, or one of the thyroid issues such as hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, thyroid eye disease, you have probably already tried a lot of things. And if you've been good, you have been to your doctor, you've gotten your labs done, you already started paying attention to your diet, and you're looking at possible deficiencies, and you're exploring all the world of physical senses. But one of the things, as a person who suffered with a hormone imbalance myself a while ago, I did not realize that I was missing, that needed to be paid attention to, because this one thing is almost solely responsible for most of the hormone imbalances, including the one you're struggling with. So in this video, we're going to talk about that one issue that sets off everything else, even if you dial in your diet, even if you're taking supplements, even if you're on medication, you might still be way off and not feeling great, still feeling sluggish, still feeling like you're fatigued and can barely peel yourself off the couch. You're still losing your hair, you're still gaining weight, or you're losing too much weight, you still cannot conceive. And oftentimes it is because this one thing has not been addressed. And when you address this one thing, everything else will start falling into place. So let's dive into this conversation about the one biggest thing that causes most hormone imbalances out there, as I have this conversation on this topic with one of my close friends, Artemis. Let him introduce himself first, and after that, we're going to get right in the gusto of what makes or breaks a hormone imbalance and how to start healing from it almost immediately.
I've been in service for 18 years. I've served over 30,000 people. I've worked at 3 holistic medical clinics, including the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center with Dr. Gabriel Cousins, where I was the spa director. And my background and passion for the past, for the first 12 years was detoxification and getting to the root cause of disease through toxicity, acidosis, and weakness. And I've been involved in helping people reverse type 2 diabetes, cancer, and arthritis personally. I have protocols that are proven to work with those conditions. And all along the path, I realized that every chronic physical condition, chronic hormone balance, chronic disease is initiated and reflected in the emotional body, and that we're more energy than matter. So I began studying advanced energy medicine, first through Dr. C. Norman Shealy and Carolyn Mace through the Mace Institute. And I became trained in medical intuition and being able to read the body's, subtle bodies in real time. And then when I learned iridology, I had a way to validate and prove that scientifically through the iris map. So like when I take people's iris photos, I can see how they're wired. And it was a scientific way for me to really ground energy medicine, because all that stuff can be so woo-woo, and so intangible, like so,
Yeah, and let me actually jump in here for a second. So I have the biggest rule in my life I have is before I teach it, I try it on myself. So before I ever interview anybody or bring it to my audience here, I have to make sure this is not, it's not only, woo-woo is okay with me as long as woo-woo can be scientifically supported, it can be common sense and historically proven. Woo-woo, there's like the stupid and the crazy woo, and there is the really crazy awesome woo, and I'm all for that. So certainly when my doctor diagnosed me over 10 years ago and said, you cannot possibly cure hypothyroidism, I said, screw that, we'll go woo-woo if we need to, we'll create the cure. But when I met you, what was fascinating, you were over at my house a few days ago. I never had my eyes read. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. Yes, they're windows to your brain or to your soul. But I never really understood the whole idea of how you can read somebody's eye in order to understand what they are. And before, as we're going to jump into our topic today, I actually want to share this. So you read my eye, and we're talking about the leftovers of like, I'm a very healthy person. But once in a while, we all still deal with stress and anxiety and life happening and whatnot. And since my pituitary was affected before, it was very fascinating for me when you looked into my eye. You're like, oh, there's where you need to improve on your strength here, and as opposed to saying your weaknesses, right? You need to get stronger here, and then you point to my pituitary, and you said there's still leftovers of medication in your pituitary. I'm like, I knew that. It's like intuitively, but then there's no way to prove it. But certainly, so you shared some things. You shared the healing code, which was amazing, and this all will make no sense until it will make sense for all of you who are listening. But so you taught me the healing code, then I'm listening to the book and started doing the healing code for the past couple of days. And really on an emotional thing that triggers me, right? Nothing specific to pituitary, nothing specific. I had the pain in just my inner thigh on the left-hand side ever since we moved to Texas. The pain would not go away. So it restricted my movement. It restricted my ability to work out. And it really just was annoying. So for the last couple of days, I'm doing this healing code on myself, on emotions. And today I woke up and I worked for 5 hours straight. And then I headed out to have lunch with my family. And all of a sudden I realized there was no pain in my thigh. It was gone. I was like, it's not placebo because I was not even thinking about it. It was not possibly, any woo-woo stuff because like I said, I was not thinking about it. It was just simply gone. And I was like, yesterday I was trying to dance with Dimitri as we were celebrating Christmas. One night we had music going. It was painful to dance. Today the pain was gone after 3 months of constant pain. So it's all this kind of woo-woo crazy stuff, but it's actually supported by experience. So as you ladies and gentlemen are hanging out now to listen to Artemis, let me tell you, I've tried it first before bringing it him your way, and this stuff works.
Yeah. One of our good friends, we'll leave her name in the silence. She was experiencing chronic lower back pain. And I didn't even have to read her eyes. I just started translating her issues about support. The spine in sacred body language represents being supported. And I knew that she didn't feel supported in her business. She didn't feel supported in her last relationship. And she had anger and resentment about not feeling supported that started to block the organs of the lumbar, kidney, adrenal, large intestine complex. So I had her start writing letters of forgiveness. Her pain is gone now because she forgave. And she moved the energy. The energy went from static to dynamic. And, the feelings that are buried alive never die. The challenge for the person with hormonal imbalances is they had the problem 10 years ago. They forgot about it. It's unconscious.
Well, why don't we do this? I wanted, since I promised the 3, reasons women are getting hormone imbalances, I'm going to cover the first 2 in like 2 minutes. And then I want to focus on this big one because it never ceases to amaze me how much emotions, how much past emotions have to do with our health right now. So very quickly. So the biggest 3 reasons, as in, my world, is going to be the dietary neglect. Is the foundation of a lot of things. And Artemis, I'm happy that you also understand that, and you're also in the plant-based diet movement.
Oh yeah, for 18 years.
The other one that we see is the disconnect with your environment, and that could be you popping medication and taking a lot of supplements because there's the disconnect between what's natural, what's not, following the advice of your doctor. And the third one is disconnection in relationships. And I want to hyper focus today on that disconnect in relationships, especially the one that we have with ourselves as women, because I think at the end of the day, that is it. And so that is my big intro. So the first one is the disconnect in the diet. You can check it out at 360impacthealth.com. I talk extensively about that. Second one is going to be with what you're putting in your body, such as medication, supplements. But the one that we're going to hyper focus for the next 40 minutes on, and I know Artemis has a lot to share, is going to be this relationship. So why don't we start there, Artemis? What is the biggest Achilles heel for a woman that will develop a hormone imbalance based on the emotional disconnect with herself?
My background's in Chinese medicine. So I started 18 years ago learning the 5 elements, the Zangfu organs, pulse and tongue diagnosis, and energetic medicine through Chinese medicine. And then I began working with a chiropractor and kinesiologist, a muscle response tester. And he did this technique called neuro-emotional technique, which is very similar to this system of the eyes, where you map out the entire body's organs in emotions. And in ancient Taoist and Chinese medicine, we've known the emotions that trap in the organs for thousands of years. And what I began to see in my practice, working with thousands and thousands of women, were major blocks in stomach and spleen. Spleen is low self-esteem, also feeling worried, distressed, and lack of control over events. And then the stomach is oversympathetic, disgust, egotistic, and stifled. And so the biggest block I saw in women in the fundamental root cause was caring too much based in worry and fear. Like when your son and daughter are, not doing what you want them to do, and you start to care based in fear and you want them to change. But we live in a free will planet, so your family's not going to change until they're ready. And yet you're a mother, you're a woman, you're designed to care. And yet if you fall into fear and worry, you get into what's called oversympathetic or overcare. So then flash forward 15 years, I began studying the Institute of Heart Math and learning about heart coherence and heart rate variability. And they talk about this in the healing code, that the easiest way to see if someone's in chronic stress, sympathetic dominance, is just look at their HRV. And when they started doing the healing codes and clearing the energetic blocks, they saw their HRV totally balance out, not just for a day, for weeks, which means that there was a more permanent healing in stress. And so for a woman, the question every woman gets to ask is, well, I'm a caregiver. I'm designed to care for myself, for my beloved, for my family, for my community. How do I not overcare? How do I get out of the trap of worry and feeling stifled and feeling oversympathetic towards others? That's the question. Make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But how does the eye, how can it possibly show what is going on in your stomach lining or on your pituitary or your thyroid? And how do we get to the connection? How do we see that? How do you see that?
What's so cool about your iris is that it's actually made of your brain tissue. So when we look into people's eyes, it's a seat of the soul by looking at the nerve fibers that go through the iris all the way through the brain. And the brain controls your nervous system, and your nervous system controls all your functions. So your nervous system is literally touching every cell of your body. All 100 trillion cells in some form or fashion are connected through neurotransmitters and electrical impulses. That's like a computer monitor through your eyes. And so the eyes is like a computer monitor looking into the body's systems in 7 concentric circles. And so when I look at, most women come to me for deep healing. I look at their eyes as a roadmap to 7 layers of their body through 7 levels. And the first and most important part of our body is our digestion, absorption, utilization. So that's the first 2 zones, stomach and bowel. And what's so cool about the iris is, in naturopathy for 100 years, we've always talked about, disease begins in the colon, and pituitary issues spiral off neurologically right off the middle of your colon, called your transverse colon. And so we can see in the eyes the direct connection between the brain and the gut, neurologically speaking. And this has been known to iridology for about 100 years, but it's just getting into the mainstream now, which is so fascinating that through iridology, we have a big picture, bird's eye hologram of your body in digestion and absorption. And when I look into a woman's eyes and I look at the first 2 zones, you're going to see blocks in receiving or stress and overwhelm around their stomach.
Let's actually pause for a second. You said blocks in receiving. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by receiving? Because we're going to use a lot of woo-woo terminology now, like energy blocks and all that. We need to spell it out to everyday user. If you mentioned this kind of things to me 10 years ago, I'd be like, okay, great, next, because I didn't understand that language. So what do you mean by that?
It's important to understand. I'm going to back up a little bit. It's the basis of the work on Dr. Candace Pert and molecules of emotion. So Dr. Pert discovered a neurotransmitter called neuropeptides. And what she discovered is that every cell has cell receptors for these neuropeptides, and that emotions produce neuropeptides. So that was one of the biggest discoveries in all of neuroscience in the 80s, is that every cell in your body is emotionally intelligent. Through the transmission of neuropeptides. And so there were a lot of pharmaceuticals made from that discovery that caused damage to the body. but also the practitioners like me and my mentor, Dr. David Hoover, we now were validated. We knew that when you have an emotional block in the stomach that's shown in the eye, that's because you've been throwing off toxic neurotransmitters. And so the stomach is about receiving.
So
And
receiving, is it receiving care, receiving love? What kind of receiving are we talking about?
we're talking about hydrochloric acid, receiving proteins into amino acids. We're talking about digestion, receiving nutrients, basic biochemistry 101. Now, food is consciousness. So you can receive nutrition in your stomach, and guess what you can also receive in your stomach? Love, support, uh, appreciation from others. We live in a vibrational universe. Every thought, word, and feeling produces neurotransmitters, neuropeptides. And so we're just now becoming aware that this energy of consciousness has a direct reflection into our hormonal pathways through neurotransmitters and neuropeptides. So like this is very scientific. This
Mhm.
isn't just about a concept or an idea that a thought becomes a thing. We now know thoughts and feelings are things in the body. Neurotransmitters, neuropeptides. It's scientifically documented by Dr. Pert's work. She almost won a Nobel Prize for it, but because she was a woman, they had problems giving her that.
Mhm.
And yet she had amazing understandings of the body is emotionally intelligent. And there are specific patterns like I can't, I can, shame into goodness, resentment into forgiveness. Each one of these patterns energetically can strengthen or weaken different organs in the body. And so I've just learned all the maps through Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and iridology. Like I've just been trained to read the body like a map. And so what I've learned working with thousands of women is that I can't receive, or I'm not good enough to receive, or I worry about my family. Therefore, I'm going to put 110% of my attention on others instead of myself. All can potentially block the stomach, the pancreas, and the adrenals.
And so, what would be the mechanics of that? It's so neurotransmitters, they're releasing these emotions. And what I love is also you're bringing up the fact it's not that just our brain is intelligent. It's really every
So,
single cell in our body is intelligent and communicates to each other. So you can't just go and, let's take a medication for this organ, that organ. You have to address the whole being. We talked about this when you and I first met, that a lot of my bringing was, for example, and I'm a modern woman, right? I can run a business and have a baby and have a husband. But at the end of the day, I was still programmed like, I need to be the caregiver. I need to be in the kitchen cooking. If my husband didn't have dinner, I'm like, oh, bad wife. So a
yeah.
lot of it was guilt driven. And I had to put a lot of uh, just on purpose retraining my body to say, my body would show like, go do it for him. And I'm like, no, just back off and don't feel guilty. So it took me a while. But how do we as women go through this process and actually reprogram ourselves?
There are decrees, word patterns. To reverse a disease means to re-say it, as well as change the diet and
Say that
nutrition.
again, to reset.
To reverse a disease means to reverse, re-speak, re-say.
That
So
is so, and it's not like I didn't hear it the first time, but I think it's so rich that you
yeah,
said to re-say it.
yes. So I can't is lymphatic, or I'm not good enough is low self-esteem, translates into I am first. I receive. I am worthy of receiving. I know who I am. I know how I serve. I am first. And so these word patterns can become very powerful in the moment in a life experience of a woman feeling worry and fear and putting others before herself. She gets to start to say, I am first.
That is so powerful because let's include all the religions in the world and all of our upbringing as women. For us to say I am first is to be considered selfish.
It's not selfish.
Yeah.
It's self-aligned.
Yeah, it's self-full. That's what we call it
Yeah.
now. But as women, we're trained to feel like I'm selfish if I tell my husband, can you please take the child so I can be by myself and go just spend some me time, not just breathe, but me
Yeah.
time.
And
How do I get away from feeling guilty?
ultimately, worry is what weakens the stomach and spleen more than anything else. Worry, a lack of contentment. And worry transforms into peace of mind. And how does a woman heal worry and stifled and low self-esteem? She must master her fears. She must be willing to digest and transform her fear into faith. Fear is faith returning. Faith comes by understanding yourself. What do I fear? Changing that fear pattern through whatever tool you choose to use, and then trusting in the universal laws of healing and creation, and knowing that, hey, your family's going to be okay. That, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So make yourself happy first. You are first, and start healing these fears one by one by one, until you get into this natural state of like peace, contentment, trust. Like one of the things we addressed in your eyes was I trust.
Yeah, that was a big one, right? I had a
Yeah.
very rough summer this past summer, and there was a lot of things where I started questioning my decision. Did I do the
Yeah.
right thing? Didn't I do the right thing? And when you said, "Oh, I see in your eyes, Elena, say with me, I trust." So I've been doing my meditation, my healing code on this, just
Mm-hmm.
simply saying, "I trust. I trust the universe. I trust. I." And
Yeah.
it is very empowering. It's like it takes me apart first, but then puts me back together.
Yeah.
It's really when you said re-speak your health,
Reverse, resay. Yeah.
reverse, re-say, re-speak.
Because we know we live in a vibrational universe now. We know that chemistry is governed by physics. Physics is governed by quantum mechanics, which is patterns of energy, vibration. And the word is one of the most powerful things that makes humans different from plants, minerals, and animals. Humans can speak words into creation. We can think independently of our environment, and we can also feel feelings way more powerful than plants and animals. Words cause wars or create healing. So you think people don't realize how powerful the word is. And the word literally becomes flesh, not religion. Just when you look into the scripture of the word, you begin to see that the word is vibration, and that word, when spoken with deep feeling, like you doing the healing codes every day, connects you to your feeling nature. You're using these prayers and hand positions, and you're rewiring, reversing doubt into trust. And that directly, as you do this consistently, you start creating new neuropeptides, new neurotransmitters, not doubt neurotransmitters. You start creating transmitters of I trust. And I trust in what specifically? I trust in me. I trust in source. Source is the source of my supply, and I receive abundantly, because one of the things you're experiencing was fear of lack and doubt in your past. And that reverses into trust. And when you start to reverse a pattern, you don't just say it once, you say it with deep feeling, and you say it until your subconscious mind
So what
gets
do
it.
you say, Artemis, to people who say, well, do I say it if I don't believe it?
There's this funny saying in personal development: you do fake it until you make it.
Yes, there is.
You fake it until you make it. Now, we have to go into some definitions. What is emotional intelligence? What is emotional fitness? And what is emotional alchemy? And what is the subconscious mind? Because deeply studying the laws of energy medicine, you have to understand that everyone watching right now, you have a feeling nature. So repeat after me, Elena. Say, I feel.
I feel.
I think.
I think.
I feel.
I feel.
I act.
I act.
I feel.
I feel.
I think.
I think.
So I feel is part of your subconscious nature. I think is part of your conscious nature. And I speak and I act. Now repeat after me. I think I feel.
I think I feel.
That's where most people are when they're emotionally blocked. They're no
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even
They're in
sound,
their heads.
it doesn't feel great to say that. I think I feel. It's either you do or you don't.
Remember, the problems of the mind, worry and discontent and being stifled, it's not even addressed at the level of the mind. The problems of the mind in a woman's body, when she's oversympathetic and it's become her new normal for her family, and it's now causing disease based in fear, that's not going to be addressed at the level of mind. We got to go into the subconscious.
I'm one of those people that
feelings.
goes, okay, hold on. And I'm like, okay, let me digest it. What you're saying is so rich. So I've been teaching this for the last 10 years, that we are so other focused that we neglect ourselves. And a lot of diseases. So I'm writing a book right now. And the big topic is most diseases are a problem of relationships, right? They stem from relationships, but we're taking it really to the core of this. It's a broken relationship with yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, if you don't feel it, what you're saying is you're creating a state of disease in your body.
The root cause of all disease is not only toxins in the food, air, and soil, it's stress. And where is the stress stored? In the subconscious mind. And so a woman needs to understand her subconscious and begin to, what I like to call, pull the weeds out of her spiritual garden. So if the subconscious was the soil, we've got weeds, we've got nutrient deficiencies, we've got toxic, water, and it's all the emotional blocks. It's all the I can't, it's hard, and I feel fear, and I'm worried, and I don't know what to do, and I'm not good enough, and life is hard, and relationships are hard, and all these patterns that are running underneath our conscious operating system, they get to be lovingly healed. And they do it through emotional intelligence, emotional fitness, and emotional alchemy of the subconscious. And this has been my gift as a practitioner for over 18 years. I'm just really good at helping people heal their limiting beliefs because I can show them where they are without any shadow of a doubt. I can show them where they are in their eyes. I can show them where they are in their word patterns, and I can show them how it's acting in their bodies and in their life. And then the hero's journey for every woman is to heal her fear and worry and start putting herself first, caring for self. I am first. I care for me. And emotional intelligence is the capacity to identify and comprehend your emotions. That's what emotional intelligence is. So we must become more aware of our feelings and our stresses and begin to clear them through things like healing codes. And then what happens is when we start to get to the root cause energetically to a lot of our conditions, it's almost like opening up Pandora's box. It gets worse before it gets better. And that's what's unfortunate. That's why Western doctors are not equipped to deal with energetic medicine, because they don't know how to deal with the shit when the shit hits the fan. They just want to give you an antidepressant. It's like, just suppress that. No, don't talk to me about your shit.
Well,
It explodes.
don't you find, and I find this a lot. So I do run ads on Facebook. That's how we do business, right? And my ads are usually provocative in the sense that that's what I say. You can heal yourself. You can get better. And then we get a whole lot of people fighting for their limitation. And I find it's not only the doctors, it's the people who have conditioned themselves to feel like victims, that they will fight for their right to be sick.
Yeah.
So I want to put a lot of the things on the doctors, right? And you work with a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we really put it on them. We need to put it on us, on ourselves.
I love doctors. Doctors are great for critical. Western doctors were what we need when we have a broken arm or a gunshot wound or a really massive, like, critical injury. We need to go to the hospital, get the best Western medicine can provide to keep us alive. But that's critical care. Regenerative care is the other side of medicine, where we're talking about regenerating the subconscious, regenerating tissue, detoxification and regeneration. That's been my focus for 18 years. And I had to go to the emotional heart of a woman to help her regenerate, because it's through heart intelligence that we become emotionally intelligent. Mm-hmm. And this is where healing codes and heart-focused breathing and EFT and tapping techniques and psychoneuroacupressure meridians, touching and feeling and touching and feeling. Once you become emotionally intelligent, then you become emotionally fit, which means women who have overcare, they get to really become fit with what they feel, and they might feel it more intensely until it heals. The very nature of, in Dr. David Hawkins' groundbreaking work, Letting Go, he understood that our thoughts and memories that cause disease, the suppressed thoughts and memories, are stored by corresponding emotional patterns. So through emotional intelligence leads emotional fitness, where we actually get to feel our feelings, touch what we feel, love what we feel, and let it go. And that's why when we use the healing codes, repetition, repetition, repetition. Repetition is the mother of mastery. Repetition is the rhythm of perfect emotional transformation, because you may have suppressed fear and discontent and worry so far down in your subconscious that you're not going to be able to handle all of it at once. It would overwhelm your nervous system.
It would. Because you have to re-speak, like you said, rewrite, rewire.
Yeah, it's repetition, rhythm, deep feeling. You need to pull out, like when you open up Pandora's box and you realize that, hey, I'm a woman living in fear and worry. And my fear and worry has caused a weakness in my stomach. And then it's led to all kinds of codependency in relationships. And now I'm pissed. Now I'm angry. And so when you start diving into emotional intelligence, make sure you have a coach, someone who can be the witness. And then make sure you have tools of energetic medicine and energetic cleansing. You need to have tools that can get to the negative memories, the emotional patterns, the destructive cellular memories. You need to start clearing that out of your subconscious. And what I'm warning everyone who's watching this, when you start learning this stuff, it gets worse before it gets better, because whatever we suppress into the subconscious expresses out as symptoms. So when we start to go from suppressed to expressed, if we don't have a tool to deal with these energies, it gets really messed up and intense. Whereas if we're using healing codes every day or tapping every day, it's like butter. It's just flying out of us with ease.
I had a client once and she fought me tooth and nail every single step of the way because she didn't want to do this work or she didn't want to do that work or she didn't. You cannot get a magic pill. And I think our allopathic medicine is built around magic pills. And
Yeah.
even a lot of the naturopathic medicine is built around magic pills. You take this, you don't have to do any work, and you just expect to get better. But I
Yeah. I
think where
mean,
you and I really agree is there has to be work with anything that you do and put in your body.
yeah, the first thing you get to agree with is that you have an emotional body. And everyone does because they can say, I feel. Everyone has feelings. Even the engineers who are trapped in their head, 80% of their buying decisions are made by their gut, what they feel. So no matter how intellectual you are, you have an emotional body. You have neuropeptides being produced with every thought, word, and feeling every day. The question is, what did you suppress that is now causing your sickness? And so this path of emotional intelligence and emotional fitness and emotional alchemy is not an intuitive path. If it was, everyone would be healing cancer today, because they would get to the root cause of cancer, which is toxicity and grief in partnership, or anger in partnership, and they would be healing their grief and anger and getting well. But it's not an intuitive path because feelings buried alive go unconscious. And sometimes you need a coach, a witness, someone who can read the pattern and go, look, this is what's causing your suffering. Let's reverse the pattern.
That's right.
Which means to re-say it. And this
Yeah.
is where,
And for me, I've done this for 10 years. I teach people how to do this for a living, but it was very refreshing when I met you. I'm like, okay, I'm an open book, looking in my eyes, tell me what's wrong,
I
because
know.
the last thing that we want to do is pretend to be perfect. We have done this long enough as women, right? On the outside, we have this perfect hypocritical mask.
I
We're
know.
great. On the inside, we're dying. And so for
Yeah.
me, the first thing to always is address the issue as soon as it happens so that it doesn't become a chronic condition. So when you have a coach to guide you through this process, it's for somebody to say you're being out of integrity with yourself. And now
Yeah.
is the time, instead of going hiding, is to come and bring it to the surface. And a couple of questions here. Can you go through that saying again of exercise, what you were saying?
Yeah.
Let,
Everyone touch your heart right now. And when I say touch your heart, relax your right hand over your left breast. So like a lot of people touch their heart and they touch their thymus gland. But I'm actually asking you to come down here and then come over here. So you can really feel the palm of your hand touching the left breast. And that gives you a physical anchor point. And everyone just drop your attention down to the center of your chest and relax your neck and shoulders and really feel your heart as a divinely intelligent organ. Your heart is the center of love. It is the center of spiritual fire. It is the center of care. And when a woman gets to know her heart in this way, through touching it every day and relaxing into it, then the prayers and decrees and affirmations that she speaks can land more powerfully in their subconscious mind. So drop your attention down to the center of your chest. Take a deep, full body breath in, breathing into the heart, exhaling from the heart, and relaxing the back of your shoulder blades, relaxing the jaw, relaxing the eyes. And now, Elena and everyone watching, repeat after me. I am first.
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 I now receive.
I now receive.
I now receive.
I now receive.
I now receive with ease.
I now receive with ease.
I am worthy of receiving.
I am worthy of receiving.
Say it again. You like that one, I think. Say that one again.
Oh, I love it. It's like honey, it's butter to my soul. It's
Totally, yeah.
I bet that at least 50% of women who are watching and saying this right now are crying. Yeah. Let me know in the comments, because me,
Say it again.
we don't receive enough, but I receive. I am worthy.
Yeah. Of receiving.
Of receiving.
Yeah. I now receive with ease.
I now receive with ease.
And so now let's bring it into finances, because I love this prayer with financial affirmations. So repeat after me. I am receiving now.
I am receiving now.
I am receiving all the money and wealth
I am receiving all the money and wealth
that Source and Universal Supply has for me now.
that Source and Universal Supply has for me now.
I receive abundantly.
I receive abundantly.
I am worthy of receiving.
I am worthy of receiving.
I now receive with ease.
I now receive with ease.
I am first.
I am first.
There's a great poem by Rumi. It says, the earth never looks at the sun and says, or no, the sun never looks at the earth and says, you owe me.
Yeah.
What does the love do? It lights up the entire sky. The sun never looks at the earth and says, you owe me. The love the sun and the earth have, the love that a woman has unconditionally without fear, is you give your love freely and easily. A woman, when she rises up out of these fear states, becomes Divine Mother, which is, I now love freely and easily. Say it. I now love freely
I now love freely
and easily.
and easily.
I trust in my love.
I trust in my love.
I love my trust.
I love my trust.
I give my love freely and easily.
I give my love freely and easily.
And what does a love do like that? It lights up the whole family.
And isn't it amazing how different is this? The women, and you work with women, I work with women. We usually hear things like this. I loathe looking at myself in a mirror. I hate my body. I will never get well. Don't tell me that there is a way. You're so wrong. And so the charge of the words is so negative, and it's filled with limitation and disease, as opposed to this. If you guys were saying this with me now, yeah, I feel it all over my body, because my heart, my gut immediately feels this. It's like,
Yeah.
it's an exhale.
Yeah. The words can be a healing balm to the mental and emotional body. And doing heart-focused breathing on a daily basis, doing meditation on a daily basis, healing your fears on a daily basis, eventually it rewires the central nervous system, which is an expression of the subconscious mind. So like, as a woman becomes heart intelligent, she becomes aware of when she's lost herself in others because she's not in her heart. She's in her five senses. She's projecting anxiety, past, future, worries, and fears. But the heart knows no fear. The heart doesn't know anxiety. The heart knows care, love, non-judgment, forgiveness, and appreciation. And true care from a woman's heart has no fear. And that's a revolutionary concept for women because they've been living in fear for too long.
Why don't we touch on a couple of things? So there are a couple of questions about thyroid issues and estrogen dominance and endometriosis. Let's start with thyroid, because we talked about this at length, and a lot, those who follow me here a lot, is especially when your thyroid gland is affected. What is that indicative of?
So there's many ways to look at that question. We can look at the physiology of the thyroid through viruses and bacteria and deficiencies and excesses. We can also look at it emotionally through suppressing one's will.
Yeah, let's look at it emotionally, because it's a novel idea for most. Most people are going to go off right now looking at which virus I have. There are some books on it, and every single person now thinks they have a virus. But our ability to fight off the virus depends on our emotional intelligence.
Absolutely, yeah, because where is the immune system controlled? In the thymus and the heart. The thymus and spleen, going back to stomach and spleen from the beginning of our interview, and then thymus, which regulates all macrophages and T cells. So like, let's think about, I always like to ground this in languaging, because the word is such an important part of understanding illness and disease. And this was trained to me by my teacher, Robert Chinson Stevens, in conscious language. It was Bob Stevens that taught me the iris map too. So I want to give him some props and credit, because like, I remembered and learned this stuff with him. Like he quantified it in conscious language. And repeat after me, Elena. I will.
I will.
I will.
I will.
I won't.
I want.
I will.
I will.
That's two sides of the same coin of thyroid. So your will is your word. But when a woman has been betrayed in love, when a woman has lost someone she loved, when a woman feels anger, betrayal, abandonment, I will, thyroid, can become I won't, resentment. And when the resentment is suppressed into the body, it causes an inflamed thyroid and a broken heart. Yeah. Unfortunately.
And then no amount of pills can fix that. Today I spent about 2 hours, I think, answering just comments on Facebook, and heard things such as, my doctors did a radioactive treatment on my thyroid. My doctors cut out my thyroid. I'm miserable and I shout at myself. We can't really fix the problem without fixing the problem.
The problem is stress. It's emotional blocks. It's blocks in their psyche and subconscious. I won't is so difficult for some women to address, because they have to touch their anger again. And anger is not a comfortable emotion for women. So as they go from I won't to I will, they get to learn forgiveness. They get to learn how to forgive. They get to bring forgiveness, which is everyone touch your heart and just say with me, I will love with all my heart.
I will love with all my heart.
I forgive this person.
I forgive this person.
I set them free.
I set them free.
I will love them with all my heart.
I will love them with all my heart.
I forgive.
I forgive.
I am now free.
I am now free.
And they are now free.
And they are now free.
So when our friend was having lower back pain, that was anger about not feeling supported with a bunch of I won't. I won't, I won't, I won't, I won't, I won't. And when we were doing her eye reading, I didn't talk about her thyroid zones, but you could see that there was inflammation in the thyroid.
Yeah.
But the more important thing to address was the resentment and bitterness in her lower back. Because we heal from the inside out and from the head down. So once we heal the gut issues, as you know, in hormonal imbalances, then we get to address the emotional gut, which so for some people is I won't with thyroid. And the victim also plays a role in this too. You talk about all these women being a victim to their doctors, a victim to their husbands, a victim. Victim is not a fun conversation, ladies. We don't want to talk about where we've given up our power and we're pissed about it, but we don't want to deal with our anger because now we're pissed subconsciously. It's like the victim is giving up your sense of responsibility.
And I think it's one of the hardest questions for us because we're conditioned to blame somebody for our thing. So if there's betrayal in a relationship, he did it to me, as opposed to thinking, what happened to us. If the doctor cut out your thyroid, they did it, which, there is that, but you have to give your consent for that to happen. So it is very difficult conversation to have with oneself, isn't it?
We just want to help women and men. Men have this issue too, and it tends to suppress into their kidneys through blood pressure, through prostate, through blocked creative expression. Men just express these emotions differently than women. And maybe in our next interview, we can talk about emotional intelligence through feminine neurophysiology, because women need to understand that they're more emotional than men. They have 8 times more blood flow to the limbic brain when they fire off a feeling, joy or sadness, anger or compassion. They're feeling it 8 times more intensely. So emotional intelligence and emotional fitness is so much more important for a woman when she's sick, because she's feeling 8 times more and she's wired to give care. Ladies, you're beautiful. Like, we want you to be feminine, and we also, it's essential that you have the emotional intelligence so you can deal with this intense energy that's sometimes raging through your thyroid and you don't even know it because you suppressed it. So when it goes from suppressed to expressed, that's when you get to find new levels of love and forgiveness. Unforgiveness is the root cause of many cancers and thyroid diseases. It's not just iodine deficiency or a virus, it's unforgiveness.
Yeah, and I think if we do go back through this, recreate, that the symptoms take care of themselves. It's not like I have to go and this is where we see the downfall of many of us. Oh, which supplement should I take? And which medication should I take? And what surgery should I have? Instead of, let's go inward and invite this forgiveness first toward ourselves, then toward others, and then start living in integrity as women with, like you said, allow ourselves to be emotional, not count it as a negative thing. Oh my God, woman, you're emotional. Of course I am, because this is a part of my equipment, and so are you. Men have emotions too, don't they?
For sure, yeah. And as a woman becomes more emotionally intelligent and more heart-centered, not trapped in her 5 senses, but as she becomes a heart-intelligent woman, which takes tools and practice, like the love codes, the healing codes, heart-focused breathing, heart math technologies, like all these are tools in a woman's tool belt to get plugged in. And then she begins to care, but not that much. In life and relationships, you have to learn how to care, but not that much. And that's through giving your love freely and easily, being able to walk away because you're listening to your heart and not your head. Instead of trying to stay in that person's life because they need to change, let that person go. And guess what? Your heart already knows how to do that. The cool thing about heart math and heart intelligence is the 5 qualities I described: love, care, non-judgment, appreciation, and forgiveness is spiritually hardwired in every human. It's a natural action of the heart. You don't have to learn these skills. They're already in you. You just haven't utilized them recently. You have not become aware of the way in which you can care and forgive and appreciate life. You're wired to do these things. We have more neurotransmitters for cannabinoids than every other neurotransmitter. Cannabinoids are part of feeling good. It's part of meditation and peak performance and flow. When I started learning about the cannabinoid system as it relates to the hypothalamus and the heart's nervous system, every woman is wired 8 times more to feel, and every woman's neurotransmitters are wired to feel good. Now, why aren't they feeling good, though? It's because of fear and worry, and then anger and resentment. And so these emotions, as they're pulled out of the spiritual garden, as we start pulling weeds, what do we get to do? Next, plant flowers. And the flowers are done with the spiritual waters of life, the living word, the living foods, and the living waters. We start to feed our body. We start to feed and nourish our mind. We start to give ourselves these words of affirmation, these tools of energy healing, and the woman's heart begins to turn back online. And when the heart comes back online, a woman starts to have a stronger. The first thing you'll notice by a woman with a strong heart, who's living in her heart, is that she's successful in relationships. She has healthy boundaries in relationships. A woman who is strong in her heart and heart intelligence knows when to say no, and she says no with love. And she gives her love. She's like, the sun never looks at the earth and says, you owe me. The earth, which is mostly feminine, by the way, gives love freely and easily, and so does the sun. And so a woman rises up into this heart-centered divine quality of loving, and you just want to be loved by women like this, but it's not a clingy love. It's the love that's given freely. It's powerful love. It's love with a divine clarity, a divine beauty. And, as I describe these very beautiful states, it elevates every woman listening. It's like, yeah, I want that. I want to have that power.
Absolutely. I'm like, oh yes, you just bask in that. This is my birthright, ladies. This is our birthright to feel, to express, to call the shots, and to do it in love. We don't have to put anybody down to feel better about ourselves. And women sometimes do that because we learned it, but we can run this world by kindness and goodness in our heart, and to actually heal from within without the drugs, without the magic potions. So that the living foods, and we both agree it's plant foods, they're great for us. And you mentioned the living thoughts, right? Those
living word,
living word.
Yeah.
And then you said living water.
Living water represents our ability to be hydrated, which is the movement of electrons, electrolytes in and out of the cell. And hydration comes from the living waters found in like papayas, watermelon, cantaloupes, green juices, coconut waters. The natural electrolyte-rich living waters of living foods brings more of this hydration. And hydration and water is connected to the emotional body because we're born 86% water, we die 50% water. Aging is actually a loss of water. And water is connected to feeling. The large intestine, in my system of iridology, bioopticography that I learned from my teacher Bob, the colon represents feeling. And the primary function of the large intestine is to reabsorb water through the digestive process so that we don't dehydrate. And so most people come into your coaching practice severely dehydrated and severely emotionally stuck. Now ask yourself, is there a connection there?
I had a client about 2 years ago, and she came to me. She was eating a good diet, but she was over 20 symptoms and counting. When I looked at her water intake, I'm like, honey, we can fix you in no time. The moment she started rehydrating, her emotional state went to balance. Her digestive system went to balance. And then she began to heal. And within a couple of months, all of her symptoms were gone.
Yeah. The movement of living water into the body increases our capacity to feel our feelings. You might start stirring up these toxic feelings and they get to come out, which is why it's good to have the tools in place. When you do rehydrate, you're going to go from static, stuck, to dynamic movement. And so going from static to dynamic requires emotional intelligence, emotional fitness, and the ability to transmute an emotion, fear, into faith, and grief into joy, and I won't, unforgiveness, through forgiveness, into setting that person free. When we forgive others, we don't forgive them to help them. We forgive them to set ourselves free. Forgiveness is for you.
That is so powerful. And a lot of times the grudge that we hold against others, they're not even aware of. So there's a saying, it's like drinking poison and hoping somebody else would die.
So the living foods, living water, living word, these are like 3 pillars of my practice. And you can't learn all this at once. You got to start somewhere. So like a lot of people starting with the physical body and getting a mastery of their nutrition, like plant-based medicine, is where most people should start, because the body, as the body gets a little healthier and a little stronger, then you're more able to heal the energies and emotions. So it's nice to start with nutrition and hydration first, and then start adding in tools of energy medicine, like the healing codes, like EFT, like HeartMath. Start
Yeah.
learning how to freeze frame. And freeze frame is a technique they teach in HeartMath Institute. And
Absolutely.
remember, as you become more emotionally intelligent, just when you think you've got it, you don't. There's no limit to your capacity to become emotionally fit and emotionally intelligent. It keeps growing as you grow. And what I've learned after 18 years and I've seen some really bad stuff. I mean, at the Tree of Life, we'd have people coming in with lymphoma and tumors and rape and murder and psychosis and neurosis. And I've learned how to love because I've seen so much pain.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me a good healer.
Artemis, you mentioned something when we met last week is when we do what we do, I do get sometimes mad because I see these women chopped up like in a butcher shop and they're medicated and they're shut up. And you reminded me, Elena, remember the flip side of anger is the passion and compassion that you get to heal with these people. It was such a
Yeah.
fresh reminder because it's so easy to get lost in somebody's pain. It's so easy to take on their suffering. As women, it's much better to bring the healing piece to that.
Yeah. And the healing is in the living word. It's in the living foods. It's in the living water. We change their environment. You change their kitchen. You change their daily spiritual practices. You start to bring in the soma, the rasayana. My background's in Ayurveda, and we have this word called soma, which means to rejuvenate, to replenish the mind through breathing, to replenish the body through plants and botanicals, and then to replenish the environment. And you do such a masterful job with your women on that, and that's why they come to see you. And it's important that women understand that your emotional intelligence is required. Like, it's not optional for healing. You get to become more emotionally intelligent. And then to make sure you surround yourself with tools that we've talked about today. So if the shit does hit the fan, if you do get very emotional, you know how to touch and transform that emotion, and you heal it. You don't cope with it, because coping is still stress. Healing is feeling. Healing is feeling. Healing is feeling. I feel, I heal, are intimately connected. And the more capacity you have to feel and become emotionally intelligent, the more capacity you have to heal, especially if you're in a chronic state. Because going back to the beginning of our interview, every chronic condition is initiated in the emotional body, not cell tissue, not biology. Biology is the effect, not the cause. And so I've been dealing in causes for 15 years now, going, oh my God, we have an epidemic of codependence in women and men's relationships. We have an epidemic of cancer because, like you said, it's relationships. Women get to become healed in their relationships, which means they get to learn to care, but not that much.
Right. There's a time and place for caring, but yes, not that much. And thank you so much. So we're going to bring this to a close. Fantastic. Well, Artemis, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your heart. I keep on learning. I don't know how about everybody else. I know that they probably enjoyed it, but I feel like I'm overflowing with healing, feeling good. And I'm like, I can come so much more and do so much more. It's emotional intelligence.
And we have so much in common in our service and through our love of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. So
Quantum
it's
physics,
all energy.
Yes.
It's all energy, baby.
Have you enjoyed this training, friend? I hope that you have. I've been doing this work for over 10 years on myself and now working with others, teaching them the same principles. But I find it so refreshing every time we talk about self-love and self-appreciation and fixing the relationship with myself. Because at the end of the day, I can pinpoint exactly the time when I started getting unwell, when I started to develop hypothyroidism, and when I started to develop pituitary issues, and which caused infertility in me. And I also know that when I finally went back and I fixed the things, the emotions that caused for my body to fall apart, my body began to heal. And this happened even after I already had a supremely clean diet. So the diet can get you only so far. The supplements, if there's a deficiency, maybe there's a use for them, but they will only get you so far. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see people taking a lot of supplements, sometimes upward to 40 of them, or a lot of medication along with those, and yet they are still struggling. So we know that diet alone cannot fix everything, and we know that certainly medications do not fix anything. And we know that supplements, they're really useless in light of you not being connected to your own self. So as we wrapped up this training, I want you to do something for yourself today. Go ahead and create a list of everything, all these false beliefs that you created about yourself that are disempowering. There are probably the stressful things that are making you really sick right now. And then I want you to refer back to the video as you were watching it, and I hope you were taking notes, and write down those statements that Artemis and I proclaimed. I am first. I am worthy. I am worth it. And all on and on and on. And then spend some time each day for at least 5 to 10 minutes. I recommend it more than once, but at least once a day, going inside, going inward, and telling yourself those new beliefs, because you get to recreate your health by re-speaking it. All right? This is Yelena Wilkins. I wish you the best of health. And to go find out more information, go to www.360impacthealth.com, where you're going to find a lot more of this kind of healing, explosive information that is sure to bring your health back into your life. I will see you there. There you have it. Did you enjoy today's podcast? If you did, make sure to subscribe to my show. And don't forget to tell others about it too. If you'd like to get more information about me and what I do, how I help amazing human beings just like you achieve their optimal dream health, go to www.360impacthealth.com to the contact page and shoot me a note. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you on the next episode of the Health Wizard podcast.